Blacks in technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.
Good evening, everyone, wherever you are. Welcome to the Blacks in Technology Bit Tech Talk podcast, episode number 110. We are keeping them moving, man. So let's get into this. This is a show where we talk to people of color who are engineers, innovators, educators, inventors, change makers, and entrepreneurs doing amazing things in the world of technology. This podcast is where they share their stories, experiences, ideas, knowledge, and perspective on tech with the Bit community. I'm your host, Greg Greenlee. I'm the founder of Blacks in Technology, and if this is your first time listening, you can find us at the following URLs. We are at blacksintechnology.net. We are on the Twitters, and that's at Black in Technology, BLKINTECHNOLOGY. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/Blacks in Technology. We're on Instagram as well under Blacks in Technology. We have a LinkedIn group, Blacks in Technology as well. And we do have a growing Slack channel. We're close to 1,300 members on our Slack channel. So if you go check out blacksintechnology.net, at the bottom you'll see a link for Slack, which will take you to an invite form. You click on that, fill out the form, and you will automatically get your invite. You can come and join us in there for very engaging conversations. We talk about tech, social issues. We run the whole gamut, so that's the place to be if you want to, engage and communicate, network with your peers. Check us out on our Slack channel. So, who is Blacks in Technology? What are we about? We are a tech-focused community and media organization, and we're focused on increasing diversity in technology through increased visibility and participation of Black men and women in tech. We are always focused on forming new partnerships and opportunities to assist our members with their continued professional growth and development. So if you want to partner with us, send us an email to contact us at blacksintechnology.net. Also, any general inquiries, send us an email to that same address, blacksintechnology.net. A couple of announcements. The LISA 2017 conference being held on October 29th through November 3rd. That's happening in San Francisco. We have given away several conference passes to select Bit community. So we sent out those emails this week. So congratulations to the three recipients of the conference passes. That's happening again October 29th, through November 3rd in San Francisco. One more thing. So HBCU.VC, that's ran by Hidea out in San Francisco. She's the co-founder of Black Founders. And we are co-hosting, I should say, an event at Covo at 981 Mission Street in San Fran. This is happening next week, October 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. This is a co-hosting event co-hosted by Black Founders, Blacks in Technology, and it's going to feature Monique Woodard, a venture partner at 500 Startups. I know a lot of you, if you've anywhere in tech, if you probably heard of Monique and the wonderful work she's doing over at 500 Startups. I'll be there, so I'll be in San Francisco next week. And this is also an event that's going to serve as a fundraiser for HBCU.VC. We're going to have activities to win prizes. And so if you don't know about HBCU.VC, this is an organization started by Hidea. Aims to increase the racial diversity in venture capital. This program, inaugural program, works with students at historically Black colleges and universities to prepare them for careers in tech and venture capital. All proceeds from this event will go to support the Student Fellowship Program. So like I said, once again, Monique Woodard will be there. I'll be there. Should be a good time. Come on out. And again, that's October 11th, 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific time at Covo, 981 Mission Street, San Francisco. All right. So I want to introduce our guest this week on the show, on a podcast, Mckeever Conwell. Mckeever is a software developer and an entrepreneur out of Baltimore. He was part of the New Me Accelerator, and he was later named Entrepreneur in Residence. I'm going to let him talk more about his story, but I do want to welcome Mckeever Conwell to the show. Welcome, Mckeever.
How's it going? Thank you for the welcome. Thank you.
Definitely appreciate you coming on, and we're gonna share your story and share your experiences, and you're gonna drop some knowledge to our listeners. So I'm ready for this, man. You ready?
I'm ready, man. I'm always ready.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're from. Tell us about your education, and let's go from there.
So I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I wasn't born here, but I was raised here. I've been here pretty much all my life. Education-wise, I went to Morgan State University, a local HBCU here in Baltimore. It's one of two HBCUs in Baltimore, actually.
Okay.
There, I studied computer science because I was, into engineering in high school and thought I was going to specialize in robotics. So when I got to college, I didn't know anything about college majors or anything. When I got to college, I was like, yeah, I want to build robotics. And somebody told me, you should go into computer science. They have a robotics club. I was like, all right, cool. Well, of course, when I got there, the robotics club didn't exist. The robot they were talking about was from the 80s, and it didn't work. And it was in, like, a back office somewhere. But what happened was, as I was going through the program, I took my first computer science course, and it was easy. I was like, okay, this is easy. And then somebody told me you could make a lot of money doing it. And I was like, all right, well, this is my major. That was kind of it. But
nice.
I'll say when I got to Morgan and I studied computer science, I had this whole game plan. I was going to go to college, get my degree, get my master's, and come out of school making a whole bunch of money. But this weird thing happened to me. I got into a student program working with the Department of Defense, and I got a top secret clearance. And my very first assignment, because it was a co-op, so every other semester I worked for the DOD as a full-time employee. My very first assignment was working in a department that was coding in Perl at the time, and they had a language they were playing with, Python. This is back in 2006, 7-ish timeline. Python wasn't really a thing yet. They're like, so you want to learn Perl or Python? I'm like, I'll learn Python. So here I am working on these high-level government systems and learning Python and whatnot. And this crazy thought occurred to me. I was sitting next to a guy who me and him were coding the same thing together, right? Working on the same project.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting paid the equivalent. He was getting paid $85,000 a year. I was getting paid the equivalent of $36,000 a year. But we were doing the exact same work. The only difference was I was in a student program and he was a full-time employee.
Wow.
That was the day college died for me. And a year later, my junior year, I actually dropped out of school and got a full-time job working for Northrop Grumman.
Wow. Disparity much?
Right. I'm like, hey, I can do the same thing he can. I'm just in the student program.
Right.
Do I really need my degree to do this?
So
I don't know if that was the smartest decision, but it happened.
Right. Yeah. So you talked about being interested in robotics, and going into college. You were wanting to get more into the robotic side of things. How did you get into tech previous to that? Like what piqued your interest? Just kind of as a young man, as a teenager. How did you come across technology and find that it was something that you were interested in?
Yeah, I guess I've always been somewhat of a nerd, and the starting point for most nerds in computer science is video games, right? You play a bunch of video games and you want to go build video games when you grow, right?
Right.
That's always like the starting point, right? But really what happened was I got into a middle school. My middle school was a magnet school here in Baltimore, and they had this magnet called Computer Applications in Math and Science or whatever. And so this has to be in 1996. In 1996, I'm in middle school, and I had this teacher, Mr. Davis. I'll never forget him, because at the time I didn't realize it, but he was actually a software engineer who would quit his job to become a teacher. And the only reason I know that now is because like the stuff he would tell us about like makes sense to me now, having been an engineer, having been a software engineer.
Okay.
But like I'm in 6th grade and this man is introducing us to robotics. So like Lego had these robotics sets at the time. This is like the precursor to Mindstorms. And so in 6th grade, he's bringing out robotics tools and kits for us to play with. And he's having us build magnetic levitational trains and coming up with these intricate designs and teaching us about CAD. And he ended up being my teacher for that engineering course all through middle school. And like by my senior year, me and 2 other guys from my class did this a competition that was connected to NASA, where we had to create a drone that would go across a fictional portion of the moon. So we had to build out this kit of the moon and create this drone that had sensors on it. It could navigate through this portion of the moon without getting stuck, right? And so like I'm in 8th grade doing that. And so from that point on, I was hooked. Like I got hooked at a really early age. And it's all, thanks to that one teacher, really. And that led me going to a magnet high school that had a magnet in pre-engineering. So I happened to when I was in high school, I was the only kid on my football team who was also part of the magnet, the gifted and talented classes, right? I was the one smart jock all through school, right? That was always a weird thing. But that's how I got hooked. It really was, being influenced at such an early age.
And what I love about that story is something we were actually talking about in the Slack channel today, in a Bit Slack channel, and it's about exposure, right? And even just having that one person in your life give you a little bit of guidance and give you that exposure to technology, piqued your interest and allowed you to explore it and see whether or not you liked it and continue with it. And that's something that I think is really important, especially for our youth. But what's even more fascinating about your story, and that I like to say, I usually like to touch on quite a bit, is that you played football, right? And you were part of this engineering program at your high school. And what's so important to me about that is sometimes there's this notion out there, and this came up in the Slack channel as well. And whenever I hear, and not that anyone in the Slack channel, kind of made this statement, but I hear from time to time people saying, we need to quit thinking about sports so much and think about the things that, and it's like, look, let's not take away from what kids like to do. If they like sports, let them like sports. That's not what, tech is, it should be an option for them, right? Like we should expose them to tech as an option as well. Not to shoot down their dreams about sports. They may find that out later on the hard way if they happen to not make it in sports. But give them that opportunity to be able to explore other things beyond sports. So I never take the stance of we need to quit pushing our kids into sports. My thing is push them and let them explore what they want to explore. So if it's sports, let them explore sports, but also expose them to tech. Let them know that this is an option for them as well. They might come out, a lot better around it. But, for someone like you, it allowed you to be able to be into tech and be into sports at the same time. And for me, I didn't play sports in high school, but I'm a huge sports fan. And I still play basketball right now. It's one of those things to where, I played a lot growing up. It's one of those things where it was a passion of mine. I loved going outside. I loved playing basketball. I loved being in rec leagues and things like that. But I also had a passion for technology as well. And I think it shouldn't be a one or the other type of thing.
And what I love about that is what you talked about, the exposure, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's this huge push to get all these kids into coding and the tech and the STEM, and that's awesome, right? But really what the push should be, it should be to expose your kids to as many things as possible and let them find what it is that they love and they want to do.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be hard and fast that you need to do this. Because one thing I tell people who ask me, like, how do I learn to code? I want to learn to code. Like, fundamentally, at the basis of coding, there's really a lot of math. It's mostly algebra, right? And so, like, if you're not a fan of math or algebra or logic in that kind of way, then this might not be for you, and that's okay. There's plenty of other things in the same, around tech or in the same field for you to do. And there's a bunch of other things in this world for you to do.
Right.
Like, if you don't have to want to be in tech, but you should get the chance to be exposed to it and to decide if that's what you want to do.
Exactly.
So I agree wholeheartedly.
Definitely. So thanks for sharing that, that part of your history with us. I want to talk about, fast forward to NUMMI Accelerator. Everyone kind of knows about the NUMMI Accelerator, started by Angela Benton and Wayne Sutton. And it made a huge impact when it was previewed on, what was that, Black in America, CNN, the CNN series, Black in America. So you were part of that. Were you part of that initial group of people?
No, I was in the third cohort, and there's a funny story to that, right? So the day that the CNN special came out, they had a viewing party here in Maryland at a college, University of Baltimore Community, UMBC. And Wayne Sutton was there. Wayne Sutton and Anthony from the first cohort. And so they were there to do a viewing party and had this kind of like feedback session. That's afterwards, and it was hosted by Mario Armstrong. Okay. And so after that, I got to meet Wayne and Anthony and got to connect with them. And after I connected with Wayne, he connected me to Angela. And Angela, back in that time, actually wrote a blog about me and my co-founders in our startup. So we just knew we were going to get into the second group of the NUMMI Accelerator. We actually didn't get accepted into the second grouping. We didn't get accepted into the third group, right? And so during that time, I actually got into another accelerator. I got into an accelerator here in Baltimore called Accelerate Baltimore. Went through that. And literally, that ended, and 3 weeks later, me and my co-founders went out to San Francisco to join the NUMMI Accelerator. So, that was an interesting timeline the way it happened. And when I got out there, I asked her, okay, so how come we didn't get in the second class? She was like, honestly, I really hate your guy's name. You need to change your name.
What was the name?
The first thing we did was, so the name at the time was NoBadGift.com. Angela hated it. So we ended up changing the name to Given To You. Much better name, to her credit. And so that's how we got in. And so, like, to this point, I've now gone through 3 accelerators. I've done Accelerate Baltimore and the NUMMI Accelerator for my first company. And for my second company, I went through Dream Adventures. And I've learned a lot through that time, but what I'll say is the most impactful one I went to was the NUMMI Accelerator, because the way Angela structured the program was so amazing. Like, I gotta paint the picture for you, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
tell us a little, and walk through, what the experience was like, some of the challenges, some of the failures, some of the successes. Walk us through that whole entire thing.
So first and foremost, right, I had a team of 3, but the way the program structure is, you don't get any funding, but one of the founders gets to live in the founder house, right? And so for my cohort, and actually the cohort afterwards, which I was the entrepreneur in residence for, we lived in this 4-bedroom apartment that had a kitchen, a common living area, and a bathroom. 1 bathroom for 4 bedrooms. There were 8 people in the apartment, and we all slept on these IKEA bunk beds, right? That was the makeup of the apartment we're in.
Okay.
I got to tell you, the worst feeling in the world is to wake up and have to use the bathroom, and you hear the shower going.
It's gonna be the
worst feeling ever, right? And there's some basic foods in the house that got replenished every month, but that was pretty much it. And then the office that we worked in was about maybe little less than a half a mile up the block, so you can easily walk through it. But here's the weirdest thing, right? If you ever go to San Francisco, you'll notice there are no black people there. All the black people are across the bridge in Oakland. But there's one exception. There's this one little portion at the southernmost tip of San Francisco called Bayview, where for about a good 3 or 4 blocks, it is nothing but black people. That's where the Accelerator was. In the one part of San Francisco where you could find black people that nobody knows about or ever comes to. Really interesting.
Right.
But, and so, you know, that's where the location was. And where we were, the office space was really a converted kind of large hangar, really. It was like this big, huge open space. And Angela had all these ideas of how she was going to change the space around because, you know, she's crazy creative, right? There was this gigantic open space that we were working. So we would go there every day to work. And my 2 co-founders had to find their own living space out there in San Francisco, which was interesting. And, you know, the craziest part about that was, you know, when we went through our first accelerator, the week before our first demo day, one of my co-founders got married. 3 weeks later, we were moving to San Francisco for 3 months. So he waited a month to stay home with his wife. You know, he's newlywed, and then he moved out to San Francisco with us. Needless to say, that was a very trying time for him. You know, he's a newlywed, and his wife is back here in Maryland, and he's in San Francisco working, you know, 20-hour days.
You just got to paint that picture.
That's like that was a rough time for all of us. I mean, because like we would go to the office, and like there would be days Angela would leave and she would come back, and me and my co-founders still being there. She'd be like, "Did y'all leave? Y'all need to sleep?" And it's like, "Nah, we grinding, right? We grinding." And so it was a great place to be. And just being in San Francisco, you get to leverage all that. But the most profound thing about it was the way she structured it, in that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, you did what you needed to do. You do your work. But Tuesday and Thursdays, we had mentors come through and guest speakers. And the way it was set up was every Tuesday and Thursday, we would have 2 to 3 mentors come in, do anywhere from 20 minutes to 1 hour sessions, which each one of the companies one-on-one. So every Tuesday and Thursday, you met with 3 people, and these could be engineers from Facebook. The first engineer from Dropbox was a black dude. It could be another successful entrepreneur. It could be a VC. Like, it could be the head of business development from Path or Twitter. Like, all these amazing people would come in every week, and you get 20 minutes to an hour with each of them, right? Every single week. So if you take Tuesday and Thursday, that's 6 different people every week that you with high level experience will giving you advice, right? And that was amazing. And then to cap it off, every Tuesday and Thursday we would have speaker dinners. And the speaker dinners would be for the heavy hitters, right? And so, like, my very first week in San Francisco, our speaker dinner was with Eric Ries. This is, like, right after the Lean Startup came out. Like, he's sitting at a table full of minority entrepreneurs telling us a story and taking our questions. You know, we had speaker dinners with...
How intimidating is that?
It's probably more intimidating for him than for us. Like, honestly. Like, because he's a superstar, so I'm there, like, at least for me, I want to soak it up, right? You know, we had speaker dinners with Ben Horowitz, Mitch Kapoor, you know, people like that. But the one that sticks out to my mind and struck me the hardest was when we had Ken Coleman come speak to us. So I don't know if you know who Ken Coleman is, or for the listeners. But if you don't know who Ken Coleman is, go Google this dude right now. Huh?
Yeah. I've heard of Ken Coleman.
Yeah, so, like, I had never heard of him at the time. This is 2012. And he has far more articles and things about him now. But, like, back then, I had never heard of him. And I was so furious that I hadn't. Because he's like the Black Bill Gates of Silicon Valley.
Right.
This dude was Ben Horowitz's mentor. This man was old enough to be this is an older black man, old enough to be my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Telling me the stories about how he came up in Silicon Valley and giving me advice about the up-and-coming technologies. Like, just think about this. An older black man, old enough to be your grandfather, sitting there telling you what's going to be the next hot thing in technology. Schooling you to the game.
Yeah.
Like that was mind blowing to me, right? And meeting him left a really strong impression on me. And so, like I said, every Tuesday and Thursday, we met people like that, and you got to soak up so much. I mean, I learned pretty much my entire strategy behind cold email marketing from the head of business development of Path. He came in and was talking to us, and he just kind of had some throwaway comments about how he does his business development, and I thought, what he was saying was a bunch of BS. That night, I tried some of his techniques and cold emailed the head of business development at Zynga. And Zynga at the time in 2012 was like a big deal, right?
Right.
The dude at Zynga wrote me back the same night. I was like, yo, what just happened? And I'm already in San Francisco, so I could set up a meeting and go meet with him. That was crazy, right? And so the New Me Accelerator was by far the best accelerator I ever went to, just because it quickly allowed me to build this network and meet all these amazing people. And, a lot of them who I still have relationships and connections with to this day. That's why I met Marlon Nichols. Like, to this day, like, I still have the ability to hit Marlon up with the email and get on a call with him. Like, that would have never happened without me.
Right.
And so that was really profound. But, it was still a struggle, right? So, me didn't give us any funding. So I'm living in this apartment with all these people, trying to find my way through Silicon Valley without any real money in my pocket. Getting back and forth from meetings got tough from time to time.
Right.
There were a few meetings where I couldn't afford the cab ride, so I just had to make that walk. Even if that meant, that was a 3 or 4 hour walk, that's what was going to have to happen. Just have to take a change of clothes with me so I wasn't sweating through my clothes by the time I got there.
Wow. So, and big up to, to Angela Benton, and Wayne. I don't think he's with Numi at the anymore, but they both started that accelerator and grew it. And what's Numi doing right now? Is it still around?
Yeah, Numi's still around. It's based out of Miami now.
Okay.
The structure's changed a bit, so it's not these living cohorts. It's more virtual cohorts in these week-long sessions where you can go to Miami for a week and get some of that intense coaching.
Gotcha.
But it's a different model.
Yeah.
But there's some real reasons behind it.
Right.
Angela has some really good reasons behind it. That's Mama Angela to me. So all the respect in the world to that woman.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for her. And Wayne,
Yeah, definitely.
Wayne was there at the beginning. Now Wayne's running Tech Inclusion, doing the Tech Inclusion conferences all around the country now, and what that brother's been able to do is amazing.
Yeah, I applaud. Here's the thing. What I love about their stories is, they both came from, or at least Wayne. I know he came from a very small town in North Carolina, and they took a chance. They went out to San Francisco with an idea, and they grinded and they made something happen, and they're still making things happen to this day. So much respect to both of them, and their continued success and what they're doing. So you've had a couple of different companies, different startup companies. Tell us a little bit about each one. Tell us about the idea, lessons learned during your time at starting these companies, and then tell us about what the outcomes of each companies were.
All right, so my first company, Given To, started off as this registry site, right? So you could create a registry for any day or event, the list of all the things you wanted, and your friends and family could crowdfund the money towards the item. And the thought behind it was, like, the original prevailing thought was, what if all your friends on Facebook who say happy birthday to you gave you $1 towards something you actually wanted? You end up getting something you wanted for your birthday. And so we created this platform where, people give however much they felt comfortable giving. And then the people who, put the list up would either get the item shipped to them from Amazon or they would get the money sent to their PayPal account. So everybody got what they wanted, right?
Right.
And so that was a cool idea. And so me and my two co-founders, when we first started, we basically spent the first year and a half just building. Because, we were software engineers, all three of us. And we just figured if we build it, they will come. At the time, we had no clue we were building a startup. We just thought we were building this website that could make money. That's all we thought. And so we got about a year and a half in, and we looked around, we realized there was all these things we didn't know anything about. Like, nobody's coming. Why isn't anybody coming? Well, you need to do marketing. Okay. How do you do marketing? I don't know. I guess we need to hire a marketer. Well, we don't have money to hire a marketer. What are we going to do about that? I guess we should get an investor. How do you get an investor? I have no clue. I guess we need to figure that out. There's all these questions, right? And so that led to me start going to these events, right? I started hearing about these tech events. And it just opened up to like, oh my gosh, there's this whole other world I had never experienced. I had no clue about. Like, I'm a software developer working as a government contractor. I know software engineering. I knew nothing about the local tech scene. Like, that was completely like out, like not on my radar. And so it opened up this whole new world. And I started going to these events, and I started going to these, conferences, and I started learning all these things. And somewhere along the line, my two co-founders were like, yo, Matt, you're probably better at networking than you are at coding. Go do that and just be a CEO. Like, all right, I guess that's the new thing. I don't mind talking to people. And that kind of, led down the path of me, transitioning from a hacker to a hustler, learning how to do all the biz dev, the sales, and pretty much everything non-technical. And that's when I realized one of the biggest things that you see for a minority entrepreneur, for a Black entrepreneur, is that we don't have an initial built-out network when you start. Right. That was one of the things I realized early on. I was like, I didn't have a network. And I didn't understand the power of that. And once I did, I realized, like, I don't know any of these people. And when you don't know any of those people, it's hard to get help. It's hard to get connections. And those connections you have help you lead to sales, help you lead to deals, help you lead to learning the things you need to learn. Right. And so what I did was, for like that first 2 or 3 months in like early 2012, when I would go to these events, anybody who gave me their business card, I met for coffee or for lunch, like every single one. And a majority of the people, I had no clue why I was meeting them, like no clue. I just knew I had their cards, I was going to meet them. And very quickly, I started to build up this network. And then as I started going to more and more events, I would see the same people over and over and over again. And then it's this weird thing in the tech scene where if you go to enough events and you see the same person and you've had a beer with them once or twice, you're now like friends. You have like all these pseudo friendships with all these people you meet.
Right. Yep.
But those things lead to real connections that move your company forward. And so I had to learn that and had to go through that. And then I had to learn what it meant to, how you get users. There's a prominent angel investor in town here who had an email marketing company who sat me down one day after it took me like 8 months to get in front of him, right? Like I had to hound this guy to actually get him to meet with me, right? And so he sat me down one day, and while we're talking, he literally pulled out his computer and showed me exactly how he got his first 100 customers cold tweeting people, how he would search on Twitter and just cold tweet people. So what I did was I would go on Twitter and search for people who were saying, happy birthday, or it's my birthday, or my birthday's coming up. And I would just tweet them like, hey, your birthday's coming. Make sure you put your wish list up on our website, right? And that's how we started getting our users. One interesting fact, though, around that time, 2 Chainz had put out his song about all I want for my birthday is a big booty girl. And so I was like on Twitter, I would see just massive amounts of people tweeting about that like every single day for months. It was very interesting the way that played out on Twitter. I got to learn a lot of stuff about America doing all that. Right. It was interesting, right? I got some stories about that. But anyway, so we're building this company, and we found out it was in this segment called social gifting. So social gifting was becoming a thing at that time. The problem was when we got to San Francisco and we thought we were going to try and raise money and stuff, social gifting had become a term. There were a lot of people doing it. It was like its own industry. And at that time, Facebook had recently bought out our biggest competitor at the time. And this prevailing thought was Facebook Gifts was going to be coming, right? And then our next biggest competitor was falling apart. And so as I would pitch to investors, like whenever you talk to an investor, you should expect that an investor's going to tell you that he's heard your idea, before, or he knows like 5 or 10 companies that are also doing it, so he wants to know what you're doing better. I will never forget when I heard an investor tell me, you know what, that idea is uncommonly popular right now. Now, to hear an investor tell you that your idea is uncommonly popular, that is an issue. That is a problem. And so, in that moment, me and my co-founders figured we had to do something different. And what we figured out was, we figured out a way to allow people to gift each other apps from the iTunes store. And so we added that into our platform and thought that was a cool thing to add and made us different. But what we found was the ability to prepay for something out of the iTunes stores, send it to somebody in the form of a link. So that link could be in Twitter, Facebook, a text message, whatever. And then when they click on it, that app or song or album or movie just downloads to their phone without them going through the app store was really unique and different. Whenever we would demo it for people, they would like perk up. And you could see genuine shock on their face, like they had never seen that before.
Right.
And so clearly as a founder, you got to listen to the market at some point. And we pivoted to a company that just did that. And we started working with marketing firms, companies that specialize in rewards and loyalty points and things like that, where we would facilitate the distributing of these digital goods in the form of a link that would just download to your phone. And that became the transition that Give and To would go on to. And we would run that company for about 4.5 years, and we eventually ended up selling off our technology to a Fortune 100 company. So
very nice.
That was a win, right? But I would say, like, during that process, one, we didn't get as much as we probably should have for the technology, right? And part of that had to be, our naivete and, not being well versed in negotiating those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then part of it was just entrepreneurship is really hard. The team was pretty beaten down at that point. We had gone a long way just to get to that point where we were starting to see some like actual revenue coming in. And the team was just really tired. And it was also a weird thing to go from our original product was a B2C company, a business to consumer, where you're trying to find individual consumers, and transition to being a B2B company where you're going, business to business, where you're selling to these businesses, but the sales cycle is so much different. And, me, I'm a CEO at the time, I'm learning all this on the fly. I had no concept of what a sales cycle would look like, or what it looks like to create a strategic partnership where, another company is becoming a reseller of yours. How you set that up, how you manage that. Like, that was a whole nother skill set I didn't realize that we picked up, that, I tried to pick up over time. And it was, it took its toll on the team. And so, when the opportunity came around, I think it was kind of like a sigh of relief for everybody. And, we sold that off and kind of moved on to the next thing.
And what I find very interesting, and something that I've heard from other entrepreneurs as well, and I think it needs to be said, is that you go through this process, right, of building a company. You make all these mistakes and things like that, and people just assume, at least from the outside looking in, that it's like this well-oiled machine that has been operating like this from day one, right? And what a lot of people might not realize is that a lot of it is learning on the fly. As a matter of fact, I talked to one of my good friends, and this was a few years ago, and this was before, when I was just getting into Blacks in Technology. I was, I'm an engineer, so I had no clue about, anything startup, VC, any of that stuff at all. And so I was having this conversation with Ayuri, and she was just telling me, like, dude, everybody just makes this stuff up as they go. Like, there are some lessons learned, no doubt. And those type of lessons, you can you can pass down or pass on to someone else. But when you're starting out, and you know, it's just this is what she was telling me, because you know, as I was, you know, building Blacks in Technology, I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just is just something I like to do. I want, you know, to happen, and I want to build this community, and so, you know, I would express my concerns with, you know, with things that I was doing or things that I would try with her, and she was like, you know, everybody, like, this is people. There's no solid blueprint for business, right? It's like you try things, you see if they work. If it doesn't, you try something else. Like, it's a lot of people will try to make it sound like it's, you know, you have to have everything in order from day. Like, this thing it's a constantly moving thing, and you just learn, and you learn from your mistakes, and you just keep pushing.
Absolutely, man. There is no one set playbook. I will say,
right,
you can watch all the videos on YouTube, you can read all the blogs, you can read all the books, and they'll help you get through some of those pitfalls that you'll see coming.
Yeah.
But that day-to-day stuff, man, like, there's just some stuff, like, there's nothing that can prepare you for it. Nothing
right.
outside of just have already done it.
Right. And so now you're at Tedco as a deal team coordinator. So tell us a little bit about, you know, what is Tedco, and then tell us a little bit about what a deal team coordinator is, and then if you could talk to us about, you know, why you made this move to the investing side of technology.
Yeah, so real quick, let me shout out my two co-founders for my first company, Sam Henry and Michael Washington, and my co-founders for my second company, Redberry, Mark Campbell, Kendrick Williams, and Brandon Williams. I love all you guys. So just want to shout out my, you know, your co-founders. You know, when you build something like that, it's like a marriage. So shout out to all those guys who went through the hard times with me, right? Talking about Tedco. So Tedco stands for the Maryland Technology Development Corporation. It is the largest funder of early-stage tech companies in the state of Maryland. We do about 40 to 50 seed deals every year. And the thing is, Tedco was created by the Maryland legislator to originally put seed money into companies that would be commercializing technology from our research institutions. Because in Maryland, we rank really high in research with universities like Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland, Morgan, UMBC, and University of Baltimore. Mm-hmm. But we don't do a good job of commercializing that technology or that IP from those universities and turning them into businesses. So Tedco was originally founded as a grant organization to give companies money to take that IP and turn it into businesses. Today, Tedco's grown into more of a funding organization where we still have a program, the Maryland Innovation Initiative, that funds companies that are licensing technology from those research institutions. But we also have a stem cell research fund that funds stem cell research and commercializing of stem cell research. Mm-hmm. We also have our seed investment fund, which is where I work, which has three funds. One's a general technology fund, a cybersecurity, and a life sciences fund. We have what we call a GAP fund, which is for companies that have gotten their seed round. They're trying to get to the A round, but need some extra capital to get going. And then we also have the Maryland Venture Fund, which is a traditional VC arm. Their sweet spot is from the seed round to B round. You know, their check sizes are like from $500,000 to 1.5 or 2 million. And so, you know, and for all our other programs, our funding is in the form of convertible notes. So we have all these funding programs. And we have some non-funding programs as well. We have an MD PACE program, which is if you have a medical device and you need to get FDA clearance, if you go through that program, we will pay for FDA consultant to help you go through that clearance process. And some programs like that, right? So Tedco does a lot of stuff. The one thing, though, is to get funding from Tedco, your principal place of business has to be the state of Maryland. Because first and foremost, while we do investing and we care about ROI, we are Economic Development Corporation, which means we care about jobs. Our overarching goal is to create jobs as well as making good investments.
Gotcha.
So the state legislator wants companies to grow in Maryland, create jobs, and pay taxes, right?
Right.
That's what they care about. And so that's
So
Tedco.
can you be a company outside that started outside of Maryland and then move your team to Maryland in order to is that a possibility?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So the principal place of business states that more than 50% of your employees have to either live or work in the state of Maryland.
Gotcha.
You have to have a physical presence in the state, and your executive decisions should be made in the state. So if you are in Philadelphia and you want to get the money from us, you're more than welcome to move to Maryland. We are more than happy to have you.
Gotcha. And so tell us about, your role as a deal team coordinator. What does that entail?
Yeah, so deal team coordinator, while my role was changed a bit recently, we got a new CEO, George Davis, and we're changing up the structure of how we do things. But originally, my role was while we do go out with source deals, we also have a way for people to just apply online. And so what I did was I would manage the applications that would come in online, and then I had a team of folks that I work with that I would then coordinate meetings with. So if I would do initial screening of the company, and if the company seemed like they were interesting or had some potential, I would set up meetings with them and other members on my team to go up to start interviewing and evaluating them. And then we would pick the companies that we really liked every month and bring them in to come in for pitches. Because then I sat on the team or the group to help make funding decisions, right, and really dig into the companies.
Gotcha.
Now I'm just a member of the overall seed investment team where we all kind of work together to go out and source deals and manage and interview and do the due diligence on the companies coming in. So.
Interesting. And so, being on the side of investment now, I mean, you kind of had this insider's perspective, right? That most of us aren't privy to. So tell us about some of the things that you have learned since you've been at Tedco that you weren't aware of as far as like the inner workings of investment since you joined the company.
I think so. The thing I've learned being on the inside, investing, I think we make it more complicated than what it needs to be. Investing, for the most part, is just pretty simple, right? When you break it down, at the end of the day, investors care about making money. They're taking other people's money, and in my case, it's taxpayer dollars, and they want to see some return out of it, right? And the only way an investor gets a return is if there's no liquidity there, at least the type of investing I do. So that means either your company gets acquired or it goes public. That's the only two ways I, as an investor, see a return on the investment that I made, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you frame it like that, there's a certain type of company I'm going to look for that I think has the potential to get there. And when a company comes to me, basically what they want to do is build a story around, I have this black box. It's kind of cool. It's very different, unique, but it's this black box. I as an investor might understand some of the nuts and bolts on it or why some colors are different here and there. But at the end of the day, it's this black box. And what you want to show me is like, hey, I have this black box. I put a quarter in, and $1 comes out on the other side. Okay. Well, then take my money and make more dollars come out on the other side, right?
Right.
That's what investors want to see. And I think there's this the narrative around raising money is like, there's all this money to be made, and raising money should be easier than it is. But no, raising money just in general is just hard. It's hard for everybody. That's the baseline. Now, if you're clipped into certain networks, or you come from certain backgrounds, or you have certain friends, and yes, raising money may be slightly easier. But on the whole, as a general statement, raising money is really, really hard. Mm-hmm. And when people start talking about raising money, I don't think people always understand what it is that investors care about or how investors think. And I see it all the time. And I remember being there myself, because you hear investors all the time say, early stage investor, early stage investor, early stage investor. But what does early stage really mean? I don't think people ever ask that question. Right. And so if you think about it, right, if you want to just find the lowest baseline for like early stage institutionalized or professional investors, right, it's typically not going to be when you have a prototype or a product and you haven't gotten into the market. You're usually too early there, right? And it's certainly not going to be where you have your idea. Yes, there are ways to get funding for that. There are some angel investors who will be crazy enough to give you their money. But generally on the grand scale, that's not how it works. And so if you're just going to put some baseline numbers out there, right, for the earliest of investors, at the like earliest and seed stage investors, like for you to even start having the conversation, you're probably going to be looking at doing $10,000 in monthly recurring revenue, or 150,000 in annual recurring revenue, and that's just at a point where you're now doing just the bare minimum for us to even start having a conversation. But when you tell people that sounds like a lie, and it is. But that's what early stage means. Early stage isn't about the stage of your company; it's about the stage in your revenue and your revenue growth. So I've come to understand that people really don't understand what these terms mean and what investors are looking for and thinking about. And it ends up causing, it causes hurt feelings and angst and anger sometimes, because you feel like I've worked so hard. I've already put 2.5 years into this company. I've already poured all my money into this company. I finally got my product. I finally got some users coming in.
Right.
You say you're early. Isn't where I am early? And it's like, yeah, but you're too early. And too early isn't about all that work you put in. It's about the amount of revenue you're generating at this point. Now, there are exceptions, right? Every now and then you'll see a technology that's so innovative and amazing that you may invest earlier. Or there's an entrepreneur who's already exited a company or two, so you may put money in earlier. But if you're just looking at the pure baselines, that's kind of where your starting point is. And even then, probably 90% of early stage seed investors are going to tell you you're still too early for them at that point. But at least you start having the conversation and it be meaningful, where you might be able to get over that hump.
Right.
And I just realized more and more how much people don't understand how investors think or what investors are looking for. And so that's something that's become more and more clear being on this side. And I wanted to touch on a question you asked earlier about what made me want to go into investing.
Yeah.
And so I think every entrepreneur has these thoughts and dreams about wanting to be an investor, right? Because we all feel like we could do the same thing or it's not better than all the investors out there, right? And so that's always the thing out there, is always in your head. But there's no real clear path to getting into investing outside of getting an MBA and knowing somebody who works at one of these investment firms, or being a successful entrepreneur who exited with a bunch of money and, you go join a firm or you put up your own money to start one, right? So outside of that, there's no real clear path. And for me, being from the tech side and then learning the business side and not having a finance background or anything like that, when the position for Tedco opened, I reached out to somebody who worked there, my colleague, Dave, and I asked him, did he think I might have a shot? And he told me, you really might have a chance, you should give it a shot. And so I knew I didn't have a finance background. I don't even have a college degree. And, the only thing I have to my name is I started 2 startups, and, I've gone through a bunch of accelerators and helped work with one. And so knowing that going in, I again used my network to my advantage and got people in the community to write me letters of recommendation and to really push for me. But all they did was get me the interview, right? So once I got the interview, it's up to me to crush it. And what I was able to do and demonstrate was that I understood startups really well, and I had a fairly decent idea of what it is that investors look for when they evaluate a company. And that my unique perspective, having run a company and also knowing how to build the tech, allowed me to, when I'm evaluating a company, to weed through all the BS faster. And I think they found that appealing, along with the fact that I had a pretty good brand here in Baltimore, being in the tech community and having a decent network of folks that can vouch for me. Like, all of that worked to my advantage. But I think the bigger thing is, when you look at the investing world and you look at like the lack of investing or lack of investment that minority entrepreneurs get,
right?
A lot of that has to do with the lack of investing of the people lack of diversity of the people at the table. Because the same reason why less black founders get funded and black startups get funded, it's the same reason why less black people get these jobs at these big tech firms. Because when you go in for that interview or when you go in for that pitch, after you go through everything you did, if there's anything off, right? But that person can look at you or say something like, you know what? that wasn't the best, but there's something about him. There's something about her that I really like. We'll give him a shot. And what they're really saying is, there's something about you that reminds you of them. They see themselves in you. Well, if I don't look like you, you can't see yourself in me. You know, I'm a large black guy with dreadlocks, right? It's going to be hard for you to see yourself in me, right?
Right.
And so when somebody can't see themselves in you, they can only go on the baseline. They can only go on like their baseline targets that you have to hit. And so that means if there are any of those baseline targets that you don't hit, well, then you go to the wayside. But when there's some kind of connection they can have with you, then they can kind of skew some of those baselines so they can allow some of those things to slide because they see something in you, right? And so I thought there was some power in me being able to have a voice on that side of the table. And what was really unique about the time that I joined Tedco, I know we're running short on time, but I want to get this out.
No, we got all the time in the world, man. We don't have a time limit here.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
But at that time, Tedco was going through this process where they had recently had a third-party organization do some research on them. And what they found was, for the most part, Tedco was doing a really good job, and it was looked really favorable in the community, was doing a really good job investing in women entrepreneurs and things. But where they were lacking was with the African-American entrepreneurs. So they were trying to figure out how do they fix that.
Right.
And so to Tedco's credit, they started having these listening sessions. So they had one at Morgan State, and they had one at Bowie State, two local historically black colleges and universities, to invite the community out and just have an honest and open up conversation, ask them, what do you think about it? And for the first one at Morgan, I wasn't on staff. I was still applying. For the second one at Bowie, I was on staff. And they were very honest conversations, very tense conversations. And to Tedco's credit, they were there to listen. They weren't there to defend themselves. They weren't there to fight back or talk back. They were there to really listen. And I give our president, John Watson, all the credit in the world, because he literally heard all of these people out who attacked Tedco with some very serious claims. And some of it they had to eat. But at the end of the day, three things came out of that. You don't look like us. You don't market to us. And we don't even have access to friends and family capital to get our company started so that we can be competitive to raise seed funding from you. Fair point. So out of the 10 key hires they made last year, 3 of them were African American. Myself, my colleague Angela Singleton, and our new Chief Marketing Officer, Tammy Thomas. Tammy was the former Chief of Staff at Bowie State, HBCU. She also worked at UMBC and helped them launch their cybersecurity incubator they have there. Nice. She is an amazing marketer, and she has done a great job making sure Tedco's message is getting out to any and everybody across the state of Maryland and every demographic, right? So, she took care of that marketing piece. My colleague Angela Singleton is a successful entrepreneur who created a footwear technology that was sold very heavily in Asia. She also has a master's in engineering, I believe, from Cornell, and she has an MBA from Yale. Extremely qualified woman. I'm lucky to work with her every day. And then myself. So 3 very qualified individuals that just happen to be African American that they added to their staff. And then, with Tammy taking on CMO, being very intentional in the way she was doing her marketing and sponsorship of things. But then there was this lingering thought about friends and family capital. How do we get into that? So Tedco was doing some thinking around the idea, and what we came up with was this program that we started called the Minority Business Pre-Seed Fund, which is a partnership with Harbor Bank Community Development Corporation. So Harbor Bank is a black-owned bank here in Baltimore who has more recently started getting more involved with the local tech community. And is also in the process of building out an incubator on the top floor of their headquarters here in downtown Baltimore. And so when Tedco approached them about it, they agreed to be 50-50 funding partners for this new fund. And so we basically created a program where we were going to take, over the course of a year, 10 African-American-led startups and give them $40,000 as early as the idea stage all the way up to the prototype stage. So literally as early as you just have an idea there on a piece of paper, all the way up to you built something, but you're still trying to figure out how to get users so you can be competitive to raise seed funding. Now, this is a space where you don't find investors because it's so risky.
Right.
But we have this thought process that if you give these entrepreneurs some capital and give them some real support that doesn't have a time limit to it, you can raise the potential of successful outcomes. And so every company we fund ends up getting they get mentorship. We do bi-weekly roundtables where they all get to meet, share what's going on, and get to have guest speakers, something I picked up from New Me, right? Mm-hmm. And we're in the process of building our online educational platform that does some basic entrepreneurship 101 teaching, right? And so we're putting all these resources around these companies to help them grow and increase the amount of companies that we can see come through our pipeline to potentially go on to fund money from our seed fund. Right. And then go on to raise other additional capital. And I manage and run that program. And, I am extremely lucky to work in an organization that had the ability and the thought and was okay with the risk of putting a program like that together.
Yeah.
Like, just think about what I just said. I work for a state-run organization that allowed us to create a program that was catered towards minority founders. Like, it's a fund catered to more minority founders earlier than any other program is going to do. Like, we invest in companies earlier than even accelerators would touch them, right?
Right.
That's amazing. In order to, to get the funding, all you do is you fill out an online application, about 30 questions. The top 20 of those go on to outside reviewers. Those are reviewers from around the country who are experts in startups.
Right.
And then from there, the top 10 come in for interviews. And so we pick 2 to 3 winners every quarter. And the response to that's been amazing. And, hopefully we're able to prove out this model here in Maryland, and so that you can see this happen in other places around the country. But I really think that this is a viable model, and you could really make something happen with this. So.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I remember we connected on Facebook when that was just starting up, and I'll be honest, for me, I always, here at Blacks in Technology, we're a platform to feature Black men and women in tech that are doing, tremendous things in the industry. So I was more than happy to post that and to give it some promotion. But I'll be honest, like, I didn't fully understand what was going on, and so when I seen it, I was just like, $40,000. That's not enough money for a company. But now that I you've explained it a little bit more, and on top of that, you were explaining early stage investment earlier. That cleared everything up for me. So yeah, I mean that sounds like an excellent model. I know that we have a couple of things here in Cincinnati, and I know Candace Peters. I don't know if you know her or not. She's actually heading up. I want to say an incubator or accelerator. I can't remember which one. I kind of use those terms interchangeably, even though that's probably not the way to do it. But I do know that she started a program here, and it was due to there's a huge firm here that is in charge. It's pretty much kind of like Tedco, what Tedco does. And we were running into the same issues as well as far as funding minority entrepreneurs. And when I say minority in this sense, I'm talking about Black men and women founded startups. They were doing. They were taking state money, right? And from what I can recollect, what the provision was is that they had to spend this amount of money on minority-led companies, right? Or minority-founded companies, I should say. And I think that was, maybe 10 or 20% or something like that. And they were doing that, but they were really only investing a very small percentage of that in startups that were led or that were founded by people of color. So the rest of that was minority, but it was, white women, to be honest. And so we've had discussions here. We've had like these, I guess, kind of like these town hall meetings where we get together and we talk about what's happening. And we had a third party come in too and give this kind of audit of what was going on and everything like that. And I think what came out of that is Candace basically doing her own thing. Like, hey, like if this company is not going to, work with us in ensuring that more black men and women are receiving funding for their companies, then we kind of need to do something on our own. And that's what she's doing. So big ups to Candace for that. Yeah, man. So very, very cool. I love that. I love that model. Hopefully she'll listen to this episode and she'll say, hey, like I think I want to try that out. I don't know if she's already doing it, but if she's not, then yeah. So tell us a little bit about, you've been on the investment side of it for quite a while now. Give some advice as to what more black men and women entrepreneurs can do to better position themselves. I know we talked a little bit about, there's this confusion around what people think that early stage, funding really is and what it's not. So tell us a little bit about, what entrepreneurs can do to better position themselves to receive funding.
I think in lieu of us creating our own game, you got to learn to play the game, right? And so what I mean by that, you got to go out there and build your company up so that you're at a stage where you're ready to get funded. You got to go out there and build your network so that your network can get you those warm leads and get you in front of investors. You got to go to these conferences where you can get seen. You got to do all the things that other folks are doing, but understand that they're only doing it because somebody's already taught them the game or told them how this game works. Right? Mm. And so I think not enough of us understand the game and know how it works. And also, I'm going to go back to this again, understand how investors work or how investors think. And the way I like to break it down to people is I like to put it in terms of like the music industry, right? So this is something that we've seen, or this is something that you see in the music industry. And what I mean is, it used to be in the music industry, and this thing with, venture capital in the tech world, where somebody would come out and be this amazing artist, right? You would hear somebody, they have this talented voice, they're talented rapping, and this major company would bring them on, put all this money behind them, put this machine behind them, pump them up, and put them out into the market, right? And they would take on a lot of risk to do that. But now what do you see? You see all these independent artists. But really what they're saying is, or really what happened is, all the majors said, we're not going to take the risk. We want you to go out there and use all these tools available to you now because the internet allows you to do all this easily. Go out there, create your own following, get yourself on the radio, get your own little tour going, have some merch already selling, already be generating some revenue. And once we feel like you have a big enough buzz already, we'll give you a distribution deal and help push you a little harder.
Great.
In that case, the artist is the one who's assuming all the risk. And so the artists feel like, yeah, I get to own all my stuff, but really you're doing more work and you're taking on more risk. And the majors are taking on less risk and spending less money doing it. But they're still making a bunch of money on the other end, right?
Right.
And so venture capital is fairly similar, right? In the 90s and early 2000s, you saw more people getting investments at the earliest stages. Why? Because building a company was so much more expensive. You had to pay for your own servers. If you were building a tech company, you had to pay for servers, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to do that now. AWS, for real cheap, get your stuff up and running. You can scale and everything, right?
Yep.
And so now the onus is more on you to start getting those customers and generating that revenue. And so understanding that that's the game and that's the bar, because venture capital is also really competitive. In any given month, your average venture capitalist in any given quarter is going to see, a company or two every day. Every single day, there's a company or two they're probably going to see. And in that quarter, a traditional venture capitalist is going to fund one or two, maybe three of those companies. So out of the 120 plus companies they saw in that quarter, they're only going to fund like two or three of them.
Right.
And that's a competitive process. And so if you know that all the people you're competing with in this pool already have their product built, already have a team, and already generating revenue, well, know that that's the bar you got to be at. And I'm not going to feel bad for you because you tell me you can't figure out how to get to that bar. Yes, I understand. As an African-American founder, you might not have the network or the funding up front to get there. But that doesn't mean you can't get there. I know. I've been there before. What it means is you have to get creative and get really innovative, not so much on your product development side, but very strongly on your customer acquisition side. Mm-hmm. I don't think enough minority founders spend enough time thinking of ways to innovate on their customer acquisition. The idea of growth hacking and coming up with unique and different ways to gain customers is something that I think is lacking. And I'll give an example, right? And so my second startup, Redberry, it was a concept around this e-commerce platform. Like, what if Instagram had a buy button on every product? I wanted to build a platform that looked and felt like Instagram, but it was just nothing but products, and every single product had a buy button, right? Mm-hmm. But the thing was, the way I got my initial user base was through Instagram, because what I found was that there are all these people selling on Instagram. They're selling through text messages and email. And so what I did was I created an Instagram page where I would post products from companies that I liked, from these boutiques and vendors that I liked. And what I found was when I post a product about you, I'm giving you free advertisement. One, you're going to like the post. You're probably going to comment on the post. And about 30% of all the other likes and comments I got were from other boutiques and bloggers. And so what I did was over time, I compiled a spreadsheet of all these boutiques and bloggers that had liked or commented on posts I made. And so my Instagram page mirrored what my app would look like in the fact of the products that I posted. So you already started to get a feel for what the Redberry, app would have looked like, just looking at the product. Mm-hmm. But then by getting this curated list of all these companies and bloggers who already had an interaction with my Instagram page, when I started doing my cold email campaign, reaching out to them, trying to pick vendors to be the initial vendors to launch on my platform, I was able to sign up over 180 different vendors in less than 2 weeks.
Wow.
Because I already created this warm intro.
Right.
And so they already had a want to open my email. And once they got there, I'm telling them about a way that I'm going to help them sell more products from a mobile device. And I did all that for free off of Instagram. Now, granted, it took me 3 to 4 hours every single day on Instagram, like every single day. And oddly enough, I got really good at understanding the trends that were going on. I took my girlfriend to a Beyonce concert, and while we were at the concert, every single piece of clothing all the women were wearing were different things I had already posted on my Instagram page. So I was like, yeah, this is validation. I know exactly what all the hot stuff is.
Nice.
But I got really focused on trying to innovate and be different on my customer acquisition strategy to move that forward, because I already knew that the only way that my app was going to get funding was I was going to need to have enough interesting vendors that were going to keep people on the app long enough scrolling, and to have good enough products that were going to make people want to make impulse buys and then generate enough revenue coming in. And so knowing that up front, I knew what my goals had to be. And I think a lot of African-American-led startups don't think in that way because nobody's ever told them that. And because nobody's ever told them that, there's this game that you're playing and you don't know the rules. And so everybody around you is like running circles around you because they read the rule book first. Well, nobody was around to hand you that rule book. And so that's the biggest thing.
So, and that leads to a couple of interesting questions out of that. So I'm going to go back a little bit. You were talking about, you're talking about the game and African American founders aren't kind of privy to that information about, how the game is played, right? So, it's this thing of build your company first and, generate some revenue. So, what are some, because I want to kind of give people a little bit more meat around this. So kind of, if you could, and this might be different, for each company, but what are some of the things that a VC firm would look for when it comes to metrics, when it comes to those hard numbers? So you say generate revenue, but how much revenue does a company need to generate? Like, how many customers should a company have?
So that's going to be unique for every company and every investor, right? So that's a moving target. So I know that's a sucky answer, right?
Right.
So if you're just looking at like some baselines, right?
Right.
So, well, one, when you come in the metrics you want to hit on are the metrics that drive home or increase your bottom line. So if the amount of users on your app isn't what increases your bottom line, well, then that metric is, a vanity metric. The real metric for, an app that may have a lot of users, but the way they generate revenue is from sales and transactions. Well, the thing I care about is how many transactions are you doing and how is that amount of transactions growing month over month and quarter over quarter. That's what matters, not the amount of users. Because if your user base is growing, but the amount of transactions you're doing isn't, I mean, your company's a stalled company. You're not growing, right?
Right.
So understanding very acutely which metrics are the ones that affect your bottom line. One thing I see often with companies who create these products that take a percentage off of transactions, right? Well, it's not about how much money is flowing through your product. It's about how much you're gaining in transactions, right? And if you figure you're taking 5% on every transaction, and your average transaction is $50, what you're taking $2.50 on every transaction, something like that, like, a little higher than that, whatever. But it's not a huge number, right? Or let's say, you're taking 1%, right? And your average transaction is $100. So you're getting $1 every transaction. Right. All right. Well, that means in order to get to $1 million from your transaction fees, how many things do you need to sell? How many transactions do you need to happen?
Right.
You need 100 million.
Right.
Right. So if you know you need to get to 100 million transactions to make $1 million, all right. Well, how quickly can you get to 100 million transactions? And I find that a lot of companies that deal within transactions don't think that way. They just think about, we have money coming through our website, our app. Well, that's cool. But just because you have money flowing through your app doesn't mean you're making a lot of money. Make that connection to your actual revenue, not just what's flowing through, not just the cash that's flowing, your actual profit, not just the cash that's flowing through your product, right? So thinking through that. But let's say, you're looking at baselines. So like, if you're looking to raise seed funds, right, you're probably doing somewhere between 100 to 500,000 annual recurring revenue, right? You're looking at an A round, you're probably closer to that $1 million plus in annual recurring revenue, right? And so really, those are really the first two that matter, right? Because once you get to your A round, getting to a B round is very strategic and dollar driven, and there's equations for that. That's an easier thing to point out. You just need to get to this certain number, and you can get there. But for the seed round, the A round, understand those aren't small numbers.
No, exactly.
So how do you grow the right metrics on your app, platform, product, whatever, to get to those revenue numbers. And then also understand that if you show me that this year you're going to do 250,000 annual recurring revenue, your projections are probably going to show me next year you're going to triple that. At a minimum, double that, but probably triple or quadruple that, and have a similar track for your next couple of years. And knowing that, you have to very succinctly tell me a story, articulate a story to me that I believe could bear that out. Now, nobody's projections are ever right? So I know that going in. But at least give me a story that's believable on how this could be possible, right? Show me that you figured out how you got into the customer acquisition and the revenue you have today, and you know how you're going to scale that up. I think another thing that a lot of entrepreneurs miss on is scalability. So we see a lot of companies that are interesting, right? But the way they sell are these onesie-twosie sales, and they have to have boots on the ground to move that company from one place to another. And so the most famous example of this actually working is Groupon. But Groupon had to create a giant sales force to get there and poured a bunch of money into it. And eventually that business model didn't bear out. Now, there are far more companies that have tried this model and it doesn't work. Why? Because it takes so much time to move from one place to another when you haven't figured out how to scale out, right? So building a business where you have to physically go from this place to that place to that place to grow your user base doesn't work long term. So we see a lot of companies like that, because you can be really successful locally because you're able to go out and knock on doors and meet the right people and do the sales. Right. But then it's like, okay, how do you get your next 5 states or next 5 cities? Oh, you're going to move to each one of them and do this all over again? Well, who's going to manage this city? Okay, well, how much are you going to pay them and pay the people for each of these cities? And now your overhead just jumped up, right? Yeah. And then you get stuck in the issue of, is your company doing well because of you? You're the salesperson. Is this possible to be recreated by somebody else? Or have you created a process that's repeatable and it's not just being sold because of your personal charisma and how great of a salesperson you are? Right. Those are the things that come up that entrepreneurs don't always think about.
So, and I mean, those that you just dropped a ton of gems on us, man, and which leads to my next question. How do we learn about that? What resources are out there that our community can go out there and find in order to be better prepared for this game?
So first and foremost, shout out to Hadia, HBCU.VC, as a guy, the partnership with Cross Cultural Ventures to put together a virtual university to help teach people some of these things. I am lucky enough to be part of that program as one of the mentors. So, and I think Hadia's got more work coming my way soon. So, that's going to be a thing. But what I would say is a lot of this information is out there. It's just not in places that we typically look, right? Okay. And so I would encourage people to go out and read some of the books written by other successful founders. I would say go out and follow the blogs of some prominent investors and even non-prominent investors. Because a lot of investors out there have these personal blogs where they share a lot of this knowledge. You just have to spend your time going through them. And the best part about that is you start to learn how these different investors think, what they look for, the companies they invest in. And when you start looking at the companies they invest in, you can start to see where those companies were at when they did their investing. And so there's a lot of knowledge out there to be gained. Go to some of these conferences where there are these panels where these investors are talking, right? It's almost the same information every time, but it's worth it to go to one or two of them just so you can hear the lingo and hear what these investors are talking about. And really start building your network. Get to know other entrepreneurs, and you want to find other entrepreneurs who are a step ahead of you. Lucky enough for me that I went through the accelerators I went through, And I was able to get connected to these large networks of entrepreneurs. And one entrepreneur in particular I want to give a shout out to is Brian Brackeen. He runs Kairos. Kairos is a facial recognition company based out of Miami. And he's currently in Morgan Stanley's multicultural incubator in New York. But he was always a step or two ahead of me. And like, you know, I was always able to go to him and ask him, you know, for advice and learn about the things that he was doing and the mistakes he was making. When you get the chance to meet an investor, try to learn more about what it is they look for, why they invest, how they invest, and what are, you know, their some of their baselines, right? And they'll tell you it's a moving target. So a better question would be like, so what was kind of like the revenue the last 2 or 3 companies you invested in were making? And when they tell you, it'll give you some kind of a baseline about it, right? Yeah. And these are things that if you're able to, you know, get a chance to interact with them or interact with somebody who knows them, you know, it's this whole networking game. You'll learn quite a bit, right? And also learn that investors, you know, when you meet investors, a lot of it's relationship building. So it's not uncommon for an investor to meet a company and get to know a company, follow a company for 12, 18, 24 months before they make the investment. But understand, once you made that connection with that investor, they're now watching you. So every quarter, every 6 months, they're going to want to get that update. And when they get that update, they're going to want to see that you made progress. They're also going to want to see that you hit the milestones that you told them you were going to hit, right? And they're going to watch that stuff. Nice. And so you have to be proactive in reaching out to them and staying and keeping them engaged. And you also have to make sure that the milestones you set and the things you told them you were going to do were going to be realistic. Because if they weren't, and these investors start getting updates from you, and you're missing the mark on all the things you said you were going to do, well, that's not going to look good for you, right?
Right.
So yeah.
Well, man, I have to tell you, I mean, that was some incredible information. And I love the parallel that you made between that and the record industry, and even some of the stuff you just said. I mean, it kind of mirrors that exactly. Like, you know, as far as people have this impression about, you know, getting into, you know, startup life and things like that, they have this kind of facade of what they think it is, and it probably isn't that, right? So, you know, for instance, I mean, you're talking about a lot of stuff that people need to do even before they even think about getting funding, and a lot of people think that you're just going to walk in with an idea. As a matter of fact, I had a friend, you know, who approached me about an idea, and you know, he thought that he was just going to get funding. Like, hey, I got this idea, you know, can you help me kind of flesh it out and then, you know, get funding from it? I'm like, hey man, that's not how it works. And even at that point, like I didn't have an idea at this level about what I just knew that he didn't have a fully fleshed out, not just an idea, but an idea of how things worked. Right. So, you know, just from what you're telling me and all the information that you're giving us here, I mean, there's a lot that goes on, similar to there's a lot behind, you know, the music in the music business. There's a lot of stuff that people don't see that happens, that when you get into it, you have this wrong impression about, you know, I just drop the next single and it's going to blow up and that's just it. It's like, no, that's not. There's a process for this entire thing, right? And you know, you just gave us a lot of information about, you know, kind of this early stage about what people need to be doing in order to even prop their company up, for even a VC to even maybe take a look at them, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff that companies need to do beforehand, before a VC even takes a whiff of what they're offering. So, you know, I definitely appreciate you giving us that information. And, you know, shout out to Hidea and what she's going to be doing with HBCU.VC, and congrats on you being part of that entire organization. I've been following what she's been doing and her progression with HBCU to start up to what she's doing now, and I think it's much needed. So tell us before we get out of here, what's next for you, and how can people get in contact with you?
So the easiest way to get in contact with me, just tweet at me, is at Mac Conwell, MacConwell. Just tweet me. I'll get back to you. I'm fairly accessible. And really what's next for me is continuing to do my work I do at Tedco, to continue to, be supportive and be somebody out here who's doing what I can for the culture, right, and to really prove out and grow this minority business pre-seed program that I'm doing. I really do have this thesis around I want to be a pipeline builder. And to that end, at Tedco, I'm trying to help increase the pipeline of minority-led startups that have the ability to raise venture capital. But, looking at HBCU.VC, I'm also trying to help create the pipeline of the next set of the next generation of minority venture capitalists. Like, that is where I'm going to live, I believe, for the rest of my life, is helping build out the pipeline to increase the number of folks we have coming in on both sides.
Excellent. And like I said, that work is definitely commendable. It's definitely needed. I'm actually going to be out, I mentioned earlier, out in San Francisco with Hydea for the happy hour, the fundraising event for HBCU.VC. So I'm looking forward to that, man. And real quick, if I remember correctly, and this is something that I kind of dropped the ball on, but weren't you actually doing videos maybe a couple of years ago where you were kind of doing like these this video series about venture capital, startup entrepreneurship? Was that you?
Yeah, that was me. I had a video blog I ran for a little bit.
Yeah.
I keep thinking about I want to bring it back, but it's still videos on YouTube. If you look me up, probably my best video blog, if you want to watch it, is really about how to do an effective cold email campaign. And when I say effective, I'm talking about cold email campaigns where you get like 70% plus open rate with 30 to 40% plus reply rate.
Wow.
Go to YouTube, look me up, check it out.
So people just need to search Mckeever Conwell on YouTube and they'll find those videos?
Yeah, if you search Mckeever Conwell on YouTube, you'll find the videos. You'll also see videos of me pitching and stuff like that. But yeah. Very
cool. Well, Mckeever, I definitely appreciate you coming on and dropping tons of information for our listeners. I wish you the best of luck in the future. Hopefully, one day we'll meet in person. And
absolutely.
We can definitely kick it then. But until then, man, just keep us in touch and in tune as to what you have going on. Like I said, the door is always open for anything that you have going on. Just let us know. We'll be more than happy to promote it. And we'll see you again soon.
That was great, man. Thank you for the opportunity, and I appreciate it.
All right, take care, Mckeever.
You too.
All right, that is it for this episode of the Blacks in Technology Big Tech Talk podcast. I definitely want to thank our guest, Mckeever Conwell, for dropping tons of information, great information for people who are in this space, this tech startup entrepreneur space. This was a great podcast interview, and I really appreciate him stopping by and giving us that information. Tune in a couple of weeks. We're going to actually have another Tech Life video, and we're going to have Ayori Selassie and Tamika Reed. They've been on podcasts previously, but we're going to talk about negotiating 101. So this is going to involve people who are looking to bolster their negotiating skills when it comes to anything, really, jobs or whatever. So tune into that. I think that's going to be in a couple of weeks. We'll have something posted on the Blacks in Technology site. And that is it for this episode of Blacks in Technology Big Tech Talk Podcast. Thanks again. And remember, tech yourself before you wreck yourself. Take care.
Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.